Hola, everybody. Hello, everybody. All the party people out there on Friday the 13th. What day is this today? Let's see. May 13th, 2022. This is your boy Jae Chong, or your uncle, Jae Chong. Yeah, today we're going to be discussing vocal productions. Of course, there's many different styles of music, and songs, and the approaches you take for each song is different. I'm going to show you one example, just this demo that I created, uh, and I'm going to show you through a session of how I kind of build up harmonies or lack thereof. I'm not, I used to be a huge fan of harmonies, obviously back in the 90s when harmony was kind of a thing, with R&B music booming and things like that. Lately, I don't do too many harmonies. In general, I do a lot of unisons to kind of accentuate different parts, and so forth. And like my biggest thing is I don't want my song to sound like a barbershop quartet with like, you know, 3, 4, 5 part harmonies and things like that. So in the context of pop music, in the current world, I don't know, and we use like harmonies for pads and things like that, like, vocal pads, oohs and ahs, and kind of maybe accentuating different lines with harmonies. But in general, I like to keep things very simple. I'm one of those guys that's like a pure minimalist when it comes to production and just the gear and everything else. I do everything in the box. Only outboard gear that I have is literally like an Axe effects that I use for guitars, which is also digital. I do have amps back there, but I rarely mic it up. I know there's people who are like probably like just this is like sacrilegious for them, but I am a purist in some to some extent, but I like to keep things very simple. My vocal chain is like very simple, and in fact, let me try to share my screen here. Uh, yeah, I'll I have a session up right now, but I'll show you my basic mic setup. And I'm using okay, so for recording studios, obviously, they got hundreds of thousands of dollars of microphone in their locker, and you can pick and choose. And even then, when you have a singer in the booth, and they don't have that much time, you don't have the luxury to go through every mic and audition every mic and know which one's perfect for them, right? So, I use this thing called the Sphere microphone, L22 from Townsend. I think they're acquired by Native. No, not Native. Universal Audio now. But this little digital picture of a microphone is, there's a physical microphone that comes with it, and basically what it does is it models pretty much every microphone, out there. And this LD 800 is basically a Sony C800. And is it completely accurate to the original? And I use the real thing for decades. I can't tell the difference. I'm sure some people can. In the context of a recording, you'll never know. So and one thing I like about these is because it's digital, it's very consistent. If I happen to be in Asia, Europe, anywhere in the world, I could just carry one mic with me, and I could record like any type of vocals I need. And if it happens to break or I lose it, I could buy another one anywhere, and it'll have the exact same sound. Uh, and and even within the real thing, like if you have the real thing and you have two Sony C800s, they're gonna sound different, just with each other. So it does the job. It does the job well. And I use basically a digital emulation of a 1084 Neve 1084 preamp, and I don't use any EQs going into any of it. I just set the levels at, was it, minus 35 dB. I don't know I don't even know what that means. I just kind of tweak it until it sounds good, and that was the sweet spot. So that's where I leave it. And this thing sounds amazing. It sounds better than the 1073 or anything that I've ever used, even like the API stuff. This 1084 from UAD is absolute butter. Butter. Yeah. So this will make your so C800 or LD800 going through the 1080. I'm sorry. Yeah, 1084. It sounds amazing. It sounds very smooth and silky and very full. And then I add maybe a slight compression going in. Just knocking off maybe like a dB or two going in. I don't like to compress very hard going in because I'm printing it. I like to leave the compression, and I just want to make sure I'm not like completely slamming it or peaking throughout my recording. But that's it. That's my entire vocal chain going in. And of course, I use like a little bit of here, like right here. I use like a plate reverb and some delay just to monitor. And there's no latency because I'm using the Unison system on my UAD interface. That's it. And then it goes in, and here's the session. So the song is called Electric. I'll play you a little bit of it. So I'll play you from the verse. So right there, that's a song called Electric. And I'll explain what I did with the vocals on this particular track. So as you can see, I don't have like, hundreds of tracks of harmonies. The green tracks are basically all my vocals. So you got like the chorus one with like some doubles and triplings and maybe some harmonies here and there, but it's not like I have 100 tracks. And I've seen my friends who have sessions with like 100 tracks of harmonies, and then I realized they're producing some K-pop bands with like 20 singers in there. So this particular song is for a solo artist, so obviously we don't require like chanting and kind of a group sound. Obviously if you're working with a group where there's like 10 singers in one band, you're gonna have to record them individually and doubling and tripling them. So that's gonna be like at least 100 tracks of harmonies, right? So in this case it's a solo artist, so basically and I don't want to bore you with all this technical details of my plugins, what I do, and I'll just basically go over where I triple or double or triple and where I put the harmonies in to kind of create this soundscape for the song. Again, this song is sort of like, I don't know, kind of, it's like a 4-on-4 beat, and it's kind of futuristic and things like that. And I didn't want it to sound like, again, I didn't want it to sound like a barbershop quartet, like a cappella group singing this. So it's basically lead vocal driven. Okay, so anything that I put in there is usually to kind of accentuate or highlight a certain line in the lead vocals. So going into the first verse, you'll see like the first two bars, it's the vocal is by itself, and then on the third and fourth line, there's doubling and tripling. and I love to do doubling and tripling. A lot of people just like to, or they like to quadruple things, and it's like I look at it in sort of a stereo field. So if you got the lead vocal here, and you got like 3 more tracks, then where do they go, right? It's kind of weird. I like to just kind of be symmetrical, like lead vocal in the center, one on the left, one on the right. And I don't like to have too many unisons happening at the same time, because it'll sound like a chant, almost like it'll sound like a group thing. And again, it's to make it sound like a lead vocal, but like it's there, and you can't even really notice it sometimes. You can only tell when you take it out. So like, okay, so here we go.
You got that power, baby, to the core. You're not like other guys. I see it in your eyes.
See right there? So you're not like the other guys. I see it in your eyes. That line is where I accentuate. So right when the song starts, you got the lead vocal singing by yourself, and then the third and fourth line, there's that doubling and tripling to sort of accentuate that, and to kind of make it so it's not so monotonous through the verse. Verse is actually I would say the hardest part of writing a song for me, because it's usually pretty boring, because it's sort of like the starting ground. You're starting at maybe even like a lower note register. So it could bore a person very quick during the verse. And there's nothing I like to do better than to just kind of skip through the verse and get to the chorus, right? So but just to kind of make it a little more interesting, I put like the doubling, tripling, as you can see, on the third and the fourth line, and the seventh and the eighth line. So
You got that power, baby, to the core. You're not like other guys. I see it in your eyes. Why do you have to leave me wanting more? I hate it all because I can't get enough. In the middle of the
so you can see that you can hear the doubling and tripling. Now, if I mute the lead vocal, I'll show you how loud that left and right side is. It's pretty low. I mean, so if you mute the lead vocals, you can barely hear the left and right track on its own. But like when you just I mean, you got to put it in there just enough so it's not sounding like a harmony or unison kind of a part. It just, again, it's kind of like when you highlight or you make a boldface font in your letter just to accentuate that word, right? You're not changing the font, you're not changing anything, you're just making it slightly thicker, so it sort of sticks out, it pops out, right? So same with the seventh and eighth line.
I hate it all because
Yeah, so that's how low it is without the lead vocals. So, and then when you put the lead vocal in there, listen.
I hate it all because I can't get enough.
Yeah, so it adds like this slight width and sort of slight thickness to the vocals without really overpowering it and making it too obvious. And so and even up to this part, you haven't heard any third up harmonies or third down or fifth, or sixth kind of harmonies. Here's the B part. And then usually when it comes to the B part, I like to sort of differentiate it from the A part, obviously. So, usually like the delay levels, or not in this case, I guess. So, well, not at all. Usually what I do is like, I try to add a little more effects on the B part to sort of make it a little more like ambient, a little more ethereal, kind of surreal, dreamy, because the drums will drop out and sort of go into that build mode where you're kind of like everything stops and the vocal is by itself, right? So
In the middle of the night, everything intensifies tonight. Oh, I can feel it at the fight.
okay, so on the B part, the pre-chorus, so you hear like everything's in unison, right? The vocal, and then so if you hear the vocal
In the middle of the night, everything
the echo is all like basically unisons, 3 channels, center, left, and right. And on the second half of the pre-chorus is when the harmony comes in, but it's not like we're not doing like full-blown what do you call it, like harmonies with like multiple tracks. It's just I'm harmonizing the lead track with, I think it's a,
I can feel it
yeah, it's like a third up harmony. So
I can feel it amplified.
so
Can
things are
tonight
building
be
up.
the night tonight? Don't think I can wait. Gonna give it all I got. Love the
You
way
got these harmonies.
all I got.
Yeah, so here these little accents that go in the hook has harmonies,
All I got.
and it's just a 2-part harmony, no barbershop quartet going on here. And and then the lead vocal track, the main lead part, which is,
Don't think I can wait. Gonna give it all I got.
yeah, so again, I'm just doing doubles and triples left and right.
Don't think I can wait. Gonna give it.
Right, and it's just basically a lot of unison. And I think, like, when it comes to male vocalists, what I like to do is just do um the main melody, and I usually add like one octave up, like in falsetto, singing the exact same melody. So it's kind of like, I mean, I get a lot of that kind of influence from like Prince, because if you listen to a lot of his old songs, he'll sing like really low, and then like he'll sing like a exact same melody in one octave higher. And so if you do that, it creates like this like sheen to the vocals. And and if you double triple the octave up, the falsetto parts along with the low parts, so you got 6 tracks in the same melody moving together in different octaves, it creates this beautiful melody line, and it's very um clear what the melody is. Like a lot of times, if you listen to a lot of R&B music especially, there's so many harmonies going on, you're like, what is the melody of the song? Like, it's basically harmonies, like, just maybe like, like 5-part harmonies going on, and just bunch of ad-lib vocals, like just there's no like distinctive melody line, right? So a lot of times, if I do use a lot of harmonies, it's really like kind of in the background, sort of supporting the lead vocals. I don't like to have the whole harmony overpower the vocals, because it'll begin to sound really dated, like it'll sound like 1990s R&B. um Even though I used to do R&B back in the day. Like, yeah, for a lot of these pop tracks, I like to kind of keep the harmony more kind of I guess in the effects category. So like, if you hear the hook,
Don't think I can wait. Gonna give it all I got. Love the way you take anything it is you want.
that's
It's
it.
electric. You got the prerogative.
And then here's the harmony.
Yeah, I've been so obsessed. Let me see inside your mind.
So notice everything changes the second time around. So it's like this, you're building, so things are getting thicker and thicker as it goes. But I don't take it to a level where you got like 100 tracks of vocals. I suppose, if I write a chanting song, I probably, and even then, I don't know if I would actually track like every single vocalist in a group. In fact, I think I did a track where the vocalist sang just one track, and all the harmonies are just done with a vocal synth from Nectar, a plugin. I just have like this harmony track from the plugin, and it sounds great. And then if you listen to a lot of like I don't know, like Troye Sivan or any of these records, you'll hear like, even like Zed or any of these records, you'll hear harmonies, and it's basically vocal synth harmonizers. From Antares. Um, People use that kind of stuff to kind of thicken up the vocals and add harmony. And it adds this weird kind of harmony where it sounds like it's kind of like robotic, and it's kind of cool, like futuristic, and it doesn't sound like a barbershop quartet. So that's kind of my method of doing things. And I like to kind of keep everything kind of like tight and simple. And I don't like to do too many tracks, and also, like, if you're spending like hours and hours, auto tuning, or, tuning vocals, and you got like 100 tracks, it'll drive you nuts. And And another thing is, you don't want to put a group of people in a booth and sing unison together, because everybody's going to sing off pitch, and if you got one guy seriously off pitch, there's nothing you can do about it. So and that's why a lot of these K-pop bands with like 10, 20 members, each of them would go into the booth and double, triple each part, because you can't redo a group chant when one guy is off, and there's always that one guy that's always off. I know this. Yeah. Yeah. So that's it. I mean, and again, all the stuff that you're hearing is recorded in my little room. That's not my room, by the way. That's my Zoom background. My room is like, just, I don't know, how big is this place? It's a pretty tiny room, kind of in the basement. Yeah, and it's and we cut all the vocals in here. Another cool thing about the whole so check this out. This was a new function that they added. Actually, Townsend was very cool with us. They were sponsoring us at one point, before they got taken over by Universal Audio. But and they used to go through this stuff with us, like, and explain, and I was like, wow, blown away. So one of the things here is you got a microphone, right? So if you don't have a booth at your house, there's this thing called isosphere, okay? And this basically, you get to pick whatever filter that you have. I have the Ashton Halo, this thing. And basically what it does is, if you enable it, it'll mute like all the external noise, but still keep it'll compensate for the changes in the audio that's created by the shield. So, every shield that you have has its own tone, and it kills your mic tone, actually. So I had really bad experience with like the eyeball thing, the chaotic eyeball. But check this out. Chaotic eyeball. Boom. So when you put this on there, what it does is, because chaotic eyeball, sometimes it cuts out like a lot of frequencies, and it makes kind of the vocal sound a little boxier, because the microphone's enclosed in this little styrofoam thing. And what this thing does is it compensates for that. So it sounds like that thing's not even there, and it gets rid of the background noise, which is it's like magic. Yeah. But the funny thing is, I don't use it. But yeah, but that's a great function to have if you're doing voiceovers or anything like that. It gets rid of the background noise, the ambient noises from just the flutter echoes in the rooms and things like that. So I love it. And you can't obviously do that with these vintage microphones. Technology's it's gotten great, and it's compact. You can take it with you, and you'll have that consistent sound everywhere you go. And you don't need to lug your tube tech compressor and 1073 and power supply and all this wherever you go. Everything's in a plug-in, which is great, and it works great. And I've done sessions where we actually recorded with a Sony C800. And in fact, here's a little secret. My group Solid, we did an album 4 years ago, and we tracked the entire record with a Slate digital microphone. It's like an $800 microphone. And we used the C800, the Sony C800 emulation from Slate microphone. And so after we tracked the vocals, there's certain parts that we had to redo. And then the rapper from my group, he actually has a real C800 at home in LA. So when he went back to LA, he tracked the vocals on his real C800 using a 1073, the everything, all the tube gear and vintage gear. And he sent over the tracks, popped it in, and you can't even tell the difference. Like, it's indistinguishable. Like and this, not this one, this is a blue microphone. This thing's horrible. Anyway, the Townsend L22 microphone, I think it sounds even better to me. I know some people say it's not, like, it lacks like certain kind of saturation and things like that. I don't try to compare it to the original microphone as much. I just like whatever sounds good, and it sounds good enough for me at this point. And I don't want to fork out like $20,000 just to, I don't know, have the authentic thing, and it's temperamental and all that. So, anyways, in terms of vocal production, pretty much it. I mean, I know a lot of people probably think like, we use like state of the art studios to record these things. No, it's done here in my little room. We've cut so many records from this little room that I'm in. And yeah, that microphone, the mic chain, the vocal chain going in. And basically, the key thing is this, doubling and tripling in unison. And I learned about this a long time ago. Like when I first started out, I tried to like make all the tracks like in even numbers. Like I tried to do like 4 tracks of chorus. So like my logic at the time was, okay, you got lead vocal, you got like slightly pan left and right, and then a full pan left and right, and I'll create like a big stereo kind of image of a vocal. And then I was like, when I listened back, it was always like the chorus was a little too overpowering. It didn't make the lead vocal sound like a lead vocal. So the funny thing was, I was in a session with Coco Lee back in the day, I think early 2000s, and she was like, you know what, Jay, try doubling and tripling and just with lead vocal in the center, left and right, and see how that sounds. And then I go, really? And so basically odd numbers, right? It's like three tracks of vocals, and then she goes, dude, like every producer I work with, or like some of these big producers she worked with, uses that technique. And I go, okay, and I tried it, and then I added like maybe like a third up harmony, doing the same thing, left, right, center, 3 tracks, and it just kind of like it created this stereo image without overpowering. And and a lot of times I get files from vocal producers where there's like only like 2 tracks. So like you got the lead vocal and 1 more track. So like, where do you put that, right? So if you put it right in the center, they're gonna like create this kind of weird phase, kind of weird thing. And so you gotta like, but if you do left and right, it always kind of works out. And I do hard panning. I don't go like, maybe I do sometimes, maybe for like certain parts, but usually I like to hard pan left and right, the outside tracks, to just kind of give it the width, trying to make things as wide as possible during my mixes. So, you hear like the chorus part here.
Don't think I can wait. Gonna give it all I got. Love the way you take anything it is you want. It's electric. You got the
And the harmonies coming right here.
yeah, I've been so obsessed. Let me see inside your mind. Love your intellect, eloquence.
And again, it's all the focus on the lead track, right? The main melody, which is like, you hear that the whole time. Like you don't get lost in the harmony tracks. You got to keep the focus on the main melody. Again, somebody told me like if they could perform your song in a high school band, marching band, and you recognize it, that's how you know it's a good song, right? You can't memorize that when it's like, just harmonies and ad libs like the whole time, right? So you got to focus on the melody. And this song is very simple. It's not like really crazy melodic, to be honest, but it's a good example of how to focus on the lead vocals and kind of accentuate. So right here, this is all the unison tracks, right? So this right here is the lead vocal track, and so basically accentuating all these little areas.
You're not like other guys. I see
Right?
it
With
in
me
your
coming in.
eyes. Why do you have to leave me wanting more? I hate it all because I can't get enough. In the middle of the night, everything intensifies tonight.
Yeah, so all the vocals are just like panned hard left and right, and it's just coming at you. And that's how I like it. What else? And I love this. I use this a lot. It was like, I think this was a free plugin from Slate Digital at one point. This revival thing. So ever since we've been in the studios a long time ago, like we're like, how do you add that like high end sheen to vocals? There's like this, and there's like different EQs that go way up there. Like I don't know how you pronounce it. Is it Mag or Mog EQ? I know Dave Pensado used to use that a lot to add sort of that high end sheen, or to the vocals. This thing does it in one knob. Boom, right here. This button right here, shimmer, just adds that high, you know, crispy highs into the vocals. That adds that sort of the pop kind of sheen to the vocals. And this thing right here is like a saturating vocal saturated thing, and it just adds a lot of character.
You got that power, baby, to the core. You're not like other guys. I see it in your eyes.
Yeah, so pretty much it, very simple. Again, I think the music making process should be very simple. Don't overcomplicate things. Um, I think sticking to kind of like the main lead vocals and getting that across to the audience is quite important. And using like unison, which is basically singing the same melody and just panning it left and right, and just ducking it really low, just supporting that lead vocal track from the left and right, kind of giving it the width and kind of thickening up those sections. And of course, like I said, like harmonies, I use that to sort of kind of accentuate different lines.
Gonna give it all the time.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's the secret sauce, really, for me. I don't like to overcomplicate things with. I'm not making gospel records or you know a cappella. I'm not doing was it pentatonics, or I don't know I forgot what they're called, but like a cappella groups, obviously they're gonna need like 20 harmony tracks. But with music, you got kick, snare, and hi-hat, which pretty much covers all frequency range. You got the kick, which covers the low, snare, the mids, and then you got the hi-hats, the overheads, that covers the whole frequency range. Like as soon as you put all these harmonies in there, you're gonna start to clash with everything. So I like to keep the vocal arrangement very minimal. And again, look at my tracks. It's just that's it. All the green part, that's the vocals. And then got the drums in blue. I got a lot of drum parts. and then the keys in whatever this like kind of purplish what do you call that, fuchsia? I don't even know the terminology, but that, and then the effects in green, or this whatever that color is. The effects color. That's it. And that creates the whole vibe of the song. Oh yeah, another thing is for reverbs, so on the lead track right here, on the lead vocal track, I got this bus going out to kind of the side, not a kind of side chaining thing, but I use that to sort of duck the delays and reverb. So when the vocals come in, you see like
Power, baby, to the core.
so the vocal, whenever the vocal is coming in, it ducks the reverb, so you don't hear it, and it doesn't sound like you're singing in a shower or a sauna, right? In a huge bathhouse. So your vocal doesn't like ring out while you're singing. It's when you stop singing, you hear the tail of the reverb. And I like to do that with maybe both the reverb and the delay. So that gives it makes the vocals a little bit more upfront when it's happening, and then when it quiets down or when it stops is when you hear the reverb kind of ring out, and it clears up everything. Because when you got reverb going on during the verse along with all the instruments, and then you got all these frequencies just kind of it's like a big old jambalaya, like right like right in the middle of the song, like there's like too many stuff going on, right? So you want to kind of duck some of that. And that's pretty much it. So let's do some questions. And let's see. Okay. Okay, so I got a question from Ed Akemi. Yeah, how do you create space for ad libs that come at the end of the song? Again, here I'll show you for this particular song, we have some ad libs going into the last chorus. Okay, so you got ad libs happening right there. What I do is I add more delay. Usually, and the delay is usually like kind of more of a wider one. And I like to do kind of stereo delay. And I used to use this button right here, the phase button to kind of throw it out left field. What happened was when I played songs on small devices like iPad or phones, it kind of cancels the delay, and you don't hear it on these devices. And I didn't know that until some of these songs I mixed, and I'm like, "Where's the delay? It's gone completely." And I realized it is phase cancellation. So what I started doing is I add chorus right after the delay, right, and to kind of add that width without creating this phase cancellation. And on top of that, of course, I duck it with some track spacer, or I'm sure you could use like some kind of a sidechain compression, but track spacer is very easy to use. But in chorus, I like to sort of, it's very, it's nothing too crazy, just slight chorus to kind of make the delay kind of spread out. And I add a ton of it. And I don't like to use too much reverb, because what happens with the reverb is you throw the vocals so far back, you don't actually hear a lot of it a lot of times. So add in just enough so it's you can still hear the main ad lib lines clearly, and the delay kind of creates that space where it sort of detaches it from the main chorus and main lead vocals, so it sounds like an ad lib. And maybe you could even try panning it a little bit. So I got two parts going on here. Yeah, no worries. And then I got another part here. Yeah, so you got that happening together. Yeah, so I use a lot of delay to sort of create that space at the end. Next question. See if there's another question. Oh, so yeah, hoping KO kind of moderates, but he's actually stepped out for a second. So I'm going to answer some questions. Wow, there's a lot of questions. Oh my God, hold on. Oh, what DAW am I using? Obviously I'm using Pro Tools for this, but when I program, I'm old school, man. So I started using Performer, like Motu Performer. I mean, if I tell you what year I started using that, you're gonna be like, holy, like how old are you? So I started using Performer back in 1985. So and it was like one of those floppy disks that I think my brother like just ripped from somebody and brought it home, and I messed with it. So it's something that I used for so long that I just know it like the back of my hand. And I try to use Logic and everything. For me, it was very illogical. Like everything was kind of backwards for me with Logic. So I went back to Performer. Unfortunately, Performer isn't like the most popular DAW for pop producers. It's more like for film and things like that now. So they're all like old guys that use it, and so it's not like the hippest thing, but it works for me. Let me see. Oh yeah, the vocal chain, male or female. What do I use? You got G Musici asking that. Yeah, I showed you this particular the setup. For rap, I tend to use more like Neumann's and like U87s and things like that. but in general, I'm a huge fan of like bright microphones. Like so C800 to me, maybe it's because I've heard so many songs with that microphone being used, just throughout the years. And just, like soon as you hear it, you're like, it sounds like the vocals I hear on the radio. You know what I mean? Without too much tweaking. It already has that sound, right? And so I love the C800 on most people. For some people though, when their voice is like a little too like too sharp, then the C800 might be a little bit too much. And in that case, I use like a man, again, I've been using the Townsend mic for so long now. I'm like, I forget the names of like these microphones that I used to use. I mean, but I love Neumanns, I love like Telefunkens and things like that. But so like a like a C12 is great. M251 is great for certain vocals. But for me, I love the C800, and that's sort of my starting ground for both male and female. And it's always like, but if I'm doing like a ballad, like kind of like Adele, kind of a warm, you want that warmth. I usually go for like, I don't know, like usually like a C12 or like a 251. But I don't do much of that kind of music anymore. So it stays out right here on the C800. I love this microphone. I don't know if what I just did right now even showed up on your screen, because I don't know if Hoban's back. Are you back? It did. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. So that's pretty much the vocal chain. And again, I'm not really a complicated guy, so I start from there, and I just kind of tweak. That's how that's my approach with everything. And another question. Yeah. So when you work with different vocalists, you change microphones, right? And things like that. And sometimes you go, wow, this person has a certain voice, you think it's perfect for a C800, and it's not, right? And in a commercial studio, you pull out the microphone out of a case, hook up the power supply, set the distance, set the microphone stand, and you go, oh, I don't like this either. And you do this for like 4 or 5 hours, and the cool thing with a digital microphone is that you could just basically, sometimes I don't even look at the model number, and I just kind of scroll through the different microphones and go, oh, this mic works well with this person. What is this? And I look at it, and it could be totally something that I wouldn't even expect. And I just kind of go with whatever sounds good. But in the studio, that could be, we kind of have like what we consider our mic staples, right? Like you go, okay, in the general rule, we use, for raps and things like that, we use like a U87, like something with a lot of attack transients, right? We use a U87, and maybe for harmonies, we use like a 251 or a thicker, you want some more like tube saturated, kind of bright but kind of thick. You use like a C12 or something like that. But again, there's no real perfect microphone for anybody really, and the easiest way to scroll through is with your mouse. Pop, 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 pop. It's a whole lot better than taking out microphones, and and sometimes they have the mic that you want, and you plug it in and it's like crackling the whole time because the tube is like wasted, or the power supply has problems, or we had many incidents like that. And also with mixing consoles too, like when you go to a studio, I know a lot of people assume every studio works. It really doesn't. If you go in there and really test every channel on an SSL console or a Neve, in most cases, I would say 99% of the cases, there's only like maybe like 3 channels working, fully functional. Like the others are like not maintained, They're just there for looks. And there's maybe like of course, like the stereo chat, like the bus would be working because they got to play your iPhone through it. But in most cases, and we actually did this with some engineers and some producers. We went into studios and we asked, like, do all these channels work? And they're like, not really, and that's most in most cases. So if and luckily we're not doing full, like 96 channels of analog recording anymore. So at the most, we're in the studio, we're using like maybe 1 or 2 channels for vocals, and then and it's just a big old laptop stand. Right. So that's, yeah, and that's pretty much how it is. A lot of consoles don't work in studios fully. Let me see. Oh yeah. Okay. So Eddie Alchemy asks, how do I create spatial enhancements? Do I use like a plugin, or do I just use hard panning? I use hard panning mostly, but sometimes I want to go beyond that. And the reason is because I hard pan pretty much everything. They're all like the same width, right? And sometimes I want to go a little further, and I use this thing called let's see, I'll show you. It's called well, one of the great ones is the greenhouse that we're giving away, by the way. Greenhouse is great. I've been using that a lot, actually. It mixes, and of course I use the doubler, but I use this thing called let me see, it's called Stereo Delta from Matthew Lane, and it's just a one knob thing, and you just basically choose how wide you want it, and this thing works great. It kind of widens things without creating too much of a phase weirdness. Just kind of does it subtly and kind of naturally. And if and I use this in most cases because it's so simple, and and that's all it does. It doesn't have saturators or anything like that built into it. It just has stereo width control, and that's it. And I like that simplicity, and it taxes your computer much less. But also I use this a lot. The black box HG2MS, which is a saturator box from Plugin Alliance. And of course I saturate things a lot. And here you have the stereo width control on the bottom here, and that kind of widens your overall kind of panning in a mix. But again, this thing is pretty CPU heavy because it comes with all this and saturation stuff. But like I said, the Matthew Lane one is great because it's just the sole function is just to make it stereo. And of course you got stereo maker and things like that from I think Plugin Alliance. Here, let me see that. Yeah, this kind of stuff. But it has too many controls for me. I'm a simple guy, man. Just give me one knob. Yeah. And the Matthew Lane one works every single time. I use that a lot. This one right here. Boom. Okay, another question? Do we have time for another question? Okay. Okay, G Music High. G Music High asks, would you do a music production breakdown? This track sounds amazing. Oh, thank you. What DAW? So I went through the DAW. I made the beat and the arrangement on Digital Performer. And I mixed it on Pro Tools. I mixed all the audio on Pro Tools. I just do all the audio on Pro Tools because it's just, you can't beat it. It's just, and I know it so well now. I can't think of working on anything else at this point. But like the production breakdown. Oh, let me see. So let's go down here. So the drums basically. Again, like my approach to everything is pretty simple. If it sounds good, it stays. If it doesn't sound good, it's out of there, right? So got it. So basically, you got kick. What do you got? Okay, so usually like I don't like to use the same clap over and over. So like I would do like one clap sound, and then every four. So every two is one clap, or every two and four is one clap, and then every four there's additional clap that happens. So kind of, and it creates like a, and so every four or every different count, there's like a different clap or instrument coming in. So, and then there's like another one coming in, right? Yeah. So and I hear demos in a lot of tracks where as mechanical as this track sounds, there are certain things that are on here that's like kind of not quantized to kind of give it a little bit of a human feel. I think it's and basically it's like these kind of instruments here, like the conga. Yeah, that's not in. So,
You take anything it is you want, and it's electric. You got the prerogative, yeah.
yeah, so it's I don't know. It's not something I do consciously. It's just something that I do again just by tweaking until it sounds natural. And this song is all sequenced. It's all meaty, but I wanted to sort of have some sort of a little bit of a swing where it kind of feels like human being have actually been involved, not made by robots. And this has a couple loops in
Everything
there.
intensifies to
Well, that sounds very mechanical, but very simple stuff. And and to me, I always like to put like sort of an identifying sound or a loop or a riff in a song. And of course, this main synth riff, I just sort of thought of it one day. And the way I thought of it wasn't because I played it like this either. I had one riff and I played another riff, and then somehow it played together and it had this like weird syncopation to it. Has this. Yeah, so basically, if you try to write a song where you're starting out with chords and a lot of complexity, it's one thing to do. But when you think of like a riff and you just try to write a song over a riff, like people did back in the rock and roll days, right? Like when you just have a guitar riff, a cool guitar riff, and you write a tune just around that riff, and and keep it very simple. You don't, it's not rocket science. Or you always have to remember the audience isn't a jazz, a master, or jazz or classical or any of these kind of people. So the general public likes whatever feels good, and you don't want to complicate it with, complicated chords and all the stuff. Like I like to keep it very simple and streamlined. We could get as complicated as you want, but we tone it down, right? So the whole, I think when it comes to music, being a music producer, a lot of our job is to go into the studio and kind of tone people down. Like, yo, I know you're a great singer. The world knows you're a great singer. You don't need to ad lib. This isn't the ad lib Olympics, right? So you don't want to over sing something. You don't want to overdo something. Do it in moderation and do it in good taste, right? And I think that's our job, is to kind of maintain that balance. Right, because a lot of times, when you got like, if I know a lot of young guys right now don't know who Kenny G is, but Kenny G, for example, he's a saxophone player. So anytime he has a song with a famous singer, you'll hear saxophone playing through the whole song, and it's because he's a saxophone player. He doesn't know. I mean, a lot of people who play complicated music really has that mindset. So like, if you play something really simple, like they're like, oh my God, this is too simple. Like I can't compute, right? And what a lot of times happens is they don't really understand that the general public don't think on that same plane. Most people are not music majors, right? And most people are into the beats. So when they're listening to a beat in a club and it's going into all these like augmented chords, you're like, it's too much. So I like to keep pop songs relatively simple. So right now, I mean, this is basically, it's kind of like the Rodney Jerkins formula from back in the day. It's just basically two chords, like literally. Okay, so on the hook, there's like basically two chords.
Don't think I can wait. Gonna give it all I got. Love the way you
This next chord.
take anything it is you want, and it's electric. You got the prerogative.
Now I'm back to the first chord. Yeah, that's it. Two chords. And it's more of the mood and things like that. Of course, you know, we could bore people to death with complicated chord progressions, music theory, and all this kind of stuff, which works. I mean, which is you know, very necessary for certain things like movie scoring and etc. But for the in the context of pop music, I like to keep it so it's not too complicated. And at least the melody could be a little bit more complicated, but as far as the arrangement and the chords go, you don't want to move around too much where, you know, the melody has to be locked into the chords. When you have two choruses like this, you could literally rewrite the song to sound completely different. You could write it 100 different ways and it'll all kind of work because you got that main riff, you know, like you got that going on. And then, you know, and it's basically even in the pre-chorus, you got the same melody that was in the synth part right here. And you repeat that with a different instrument. So you got the TB303 going on. Yeah, so you got basically that riff and basically, you know, and you don't want to have so many things going on where you divert people's attention away from that riff. So, you know, everything has to be sort of built around a single kind of idea, and, you know, so people could kind of absorb it like easier. Pretty much it. Do I have time for another question, Hobin, or are you there? I think he's oh, yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. So Juan is asking, do you think it's necessary to learn music production at music school or better learn by practice? I can't tell you what it's like to be in school because I've never been in one, but I'm sure it would have helped me a whole lot. But to some degree, like my logic was basically like I felt like if I majored in music in school, like whether it's classical or jazz, because they'll put you in that box, one or the other, right? So I felt like they're gonna put me in a box, and I decided like I want to learn music on my own, and I was one of those kids. If I was sitting in a piano class, I just never listened. I just wanted to like just play it by ear, which is a horrible thing to do, according to the piano teachers, because they want you to look at the sheet music and learn how to read music. I was never that guy. And I think Eddie Van Halen, which is my favorite musician of all time, he said, and he doesn't read music. Like myself, I don't read music. I never learned music theory. I just listened to a whole lot of music growing up. And that was my it's kind of like I learned music from the best because I listened to the best, right? And Eddie Van Halen said, I like to think of it as like me writing a book versus like reading it, right? So I like to do that. And in terms of music production, there's no better lesson than listening to a whole lot of music. And I remember when I first met Dave Pensado, he told me like, hey, if you want to mix a record or you want to be a arranger or a producer, like go on an island with 100 CDs and just listen to that religiously for, the whole time you're there, and it's something that we've done since we're kids. Like I was just engulfed in music. So like if I listen to a brand new track for the first time, almost every artist that you hear right now, every musician has an influence from something from the past, and we all know the same sources, right? So when, like, for example, if you send a song that sounds kind of like Michael Jackson-ish, or like, let's say like the new the Weekend record, right? It sounds like Michael Jackson. So you listen to it and you go, okay, I know these elements. Da, 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 I know, and okay, definitely they fattened up the kick sound much more to kind of make it more current. You get to basically analyze music based on a lot of different references that you have in your head, right? So number one thing is you have to listen to a lot of music to know where the kicks go, how the kick should sound, where the hi-hat is, where everything is in the mix. Uh for me, when I walked into the studio for the very first time, it was very natural for me because like I knew exactly where all these new things needed to go because I heard it so much in my headphones growing up. So number one thing is you got to listen to a whole lot of music. And there's nothing better than to do things. Nobody's gonna make you can't go to school where they teach you how to write pop music, because pop music basically means everything. It's not like you're not bound by genre. If you're a rock musician, you play guitar, whatever, jazz, whatever. But like in pop, you have to incorporate every genre: classical, jazz, sometimes hip hop, R&B, everything. You gotta fuse everything to create something catchy, something radio friendly, something labels would want. And for that, you need to have a lot of references in your own head where you go, oh, you know what, I like this sound that I know from this one song could work so well in this context, and you use it, and um things like that. So uh yeah, for me, learning by myself. But again, I don't recommend that for everybody. What worked for me may not work for you. So and maybe what took me 10 years to learn, you can learn it in 5 minutes on YouTube, right? So I know a lot of younger people who are starting right now are growing exponentially because they're getting the right information right from the get-go. um I had to learn a lot of things from trial and error. It's fun. And there's a beauty about learning things from trial and error because you know what you did wrong versus like learning it the right the first time. So like there's like uh good and bad of both sides. But I think I definitely think down the road, if you want a career in music, it helps to know how to read music. Uh, I for one, I don't read music. Everything I do is just kind of I wing everything. That's how I live life, right? But right now, I get a lot of offers to score films, things like that, and then you're like, oh my god, I need to work with an orchestra. I need to, you know, make charts for everybody and all this stuff. Then I work with like arrangers and things like that. But generally, it comes down to your taste. If you want to learn technical skills of arranging, you could learn pretty much everything on YouTube. Really, you don't need to enroll yourself and spend thousands on school to do it. They would love you to not sign up for it so they could make thousands off of you. But the best thing to do is get out in the streets and just do it, man. Any? Do we have time for more questions? Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, so we got to wrap it up right now. But if you have more questions, please send it to Talkback on Instagram at Talkback on, and yeah, and we have episode 14 of Talkback on coming out today with special guest Adrian McKinnon, hitmaker, awesome guy, great vocalist. He's done mega hits for all the K-pop artists out in the world, and he's on the new episode. It's exciting, and we have a giveaway coming up for the Greenhouse plugin, and so we're going to be like kind of taking submissions for demos, and we're going to have three of us, including Ken Lewis, the super producer, sit and sort of listen and give feedbacks on the demos and things like that. So if you want more details, go to Talkback on Instagram, and I gotta head out to lunch. Yeah, so and I'll hang out at Discord for a couple more questions. So if you guys are on Discord, come join us on Discord, and have a great weekend, guys. And it's Friday the 13th, so don't hang out with black cats. All right, guys, peace out.